Go ahead. And we're back. Hello, everybody.
Peace.
We're so happy to be here with you. My name is Zakai Free. This is my beautiful Ananda. I guess introductions are in order.
So we're Ananda and Zakai Free, or Zakai and Ananda Free. We're the Frees. And today on this episode of African, was it? I've done forget. Lord, please forgive me. African Spiritual Conversations. We're going to be talking about commitment and
commitments in marriage,
and because everybody
the beauty of commitment.
Yes, everybody doesn't necessarily get married.
The opportunity of commitment in relationships.
Yes,
that doesn't have to be just marriage too. I mean, committing to any kind of a long-term partnership or even a short to medium term project, can be scary.
Yeah.
So we're talking about commitment and what it means to be committed and try to get yourself committed. But before we go too much into that, Ananda is a priest of Oshun, and has many more things you can talk about in the tradition of Ifa. She's my wife, as I said before, mother of 3 awesome, energetic children who may or may not be heard sometime during this show, and an artist. So the art you see here on our set in our home, her work, author, so many great things. And I'm honored to be sitting here with her and to have her as my mate.
Aren't you so sweet?
Yes.
And so Zakai is amazing, world bridger, change agent. So he's a connector. So a lot of times when folks are looking for something, somehow, some way, I call it grace, his own alchemy and magic, he's able to connect them to the who, what, where, sometimes the why, when, and maybe even how. Because he's also a problem solver, amazing author, writer, incredible father, amazing husband, best friend. He's a priest of Ifa and also a of Yemoja. And we're both owls of Ifa in the West African, spiritual. And one of the things that keep us going, honestly, and that have really been a huge glue in our foundation is practicing Yoruba. Even though we didn't really start off more like diasporical Ifa. However, a lot of the tenets are the same. It just has to do with nuances with the different regions that people are practicing in. So for us, I don't know about for you, Boo, but I think how we started our relationship had to do with the Orisha. Like, I feel like we were divinely guided.
Definitely.
Not just the Orisha, but our ancestors.
Sure, spirit as a general, right?
Yeah, as a conductor. And so it was a conversation that we had a lot around spirit and incorporating prayer and things like that from the very beginning. And so I have to say, from my own personal experience as a woman, coming into a relationship with a cis hetero male, which means he identifies as male, he identifies with having a male body, and he's heterosexual, that he wasn't monogamous.
Yeah, I just didn't. Well, first, even go beyond before that, being raised in a 2-parent household. My dad who was a Christian pastor. He said that sex was more spiritual than it was physical. Like that was his birds and bees talk. He gave 2 birds and bees talk. One was I was really young then. This was, I don't know, I was 11, 10 or 11 years old, something like that. Keep your nippy in your britches.
Right.
That was his one that was his one talk. And then in the church, I would hear him talk just in general. And the advice he gave to girls was be a peach out of reach. And then later on, as I got a little bit older, he gave the sex more spiritual than it is physical. And though I had my different, experiences and stuff, that was always in my mind. Like, and that probably kept me from a lot of things that probably weren't as, thinking about that, man, this person I'm going to be with, kind of some kind of connection. So fast forward to us getting together as even in the dating stage, like we were praying, right. even praying in the sexual act or even before initiating, like we had to pray on that thing, you know what I'm saying, to make sure, because it's not there's enough examples out here, people who play around, right, what sexually or even in relationships, proclaiming that you love somebody, things like that, and you see the danger that or the damage that creates, So I'm just thankful that when we did get together, I was mature enough, though I was not monogamous, and I was afraid of making that kind of commitment because I didn't want to hurt anyone based on my lack of discipline or my interest in being free, right? Like that, the idea of I'll do what I need to do. I feel you feel the urge or the call of nature. You don't want them to hold you back, and that's what I was thinking of as far as the being non-monogamous or polygamous, was really not wanting to hurt anyone, not wanting to limit myself, not wanting to hurt myself. But you helped me. You opened my eyes. Yes.
But also not taking away from, there are people out here who are naturally polygamous, polyamorous, and things like that, and they have their own set of rules and ethics.
Yes.
And I just want to say that we respect whatever other people are doing.
Definitely.
Sometimes I do feel as though, and this is my opinion, that some people use those umbrellas or those labels as a free card to not be responsible, to not be like, well, we not it. You know what I'm saying? And so commitment for us has been in a lot of conversations we've had, because we've had a lot of conversations around relating, and why is it so important for that commitment to be there for us? For me, as a woman, it's important to feel free in my own physically intimate relationship with my mate. So for me, I know if I'm not the only one, there's only so much I'm going to do, or sexually. And it may it's either one or two things. It's going to make me be repressed, or it's going to make me jump out the box and all kind of stuff I probably wouldn't normally do, because I'm somebody who is possessive. I'm trying to hook you.
Right. It's some kind of competitive type of thing.
Right. Even if I don't know who the other people are. There's balloons in the middle of the street. Even if I don't know who the other people are. I'm sorry, I had a squirrel moment. I was like, squirrel. I don't know who the other people are. Just knowing that there are other people would be a hindrance to me. So also for us, our children come back and forth sometimes doing this. We've had a lot of amazing conversations around commitment. And for me, in my past relationships, I will also say that I was not like Pollyanna, that I was not necessarily faithful. prior to my husband. And the infidelity was more emotional than any other kind of infidelity, which to me is almost worse. If there has to be like a worse, bad, or whatever, it's more intense because you can physically be with someone like your mate. A person can be with their partner, like be present with them, and not have crossed any lines physically with another person, but that other person has a piece of them, their heart or their mind and their spirit, and so it's a very it's kind of unfair. And I'll also say I did that on purpose in previous relationships because I didn't want to be left holding the bag, so to speak. I didn't want to feel like, so like cultivating these emotional relationships with other people was like a safety net. So when my partner acted up, I would just go hang out with such and such, or when my partner acted up, I would just go call this person and vent to them about how my partner wasn't showing up in a certain kind of way. I was talking about how in previous relationships I had issues around emotional infidelity.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know that. Like, Anand is really good with bringing me up to terms on these different words. Didn't know what that was, and then she was like, "That's that kind of thing where you've got some outside friend or whatever it is, and you're giving them your emotional energy that should be for your partner." And so she hit me to that, and which again, this is interesting because being in a marriage relationship, you have to be humble because my wife will tell me stuff and learn things, and my ego is like, man, I ain't trying to do that. You can't tell me who to be friends with. You know what I'm saying? Like, but then when I thought about it, I looked at some of the instances or situations. Yeah, it was an outside draw, and everything needs to be inside. You know what I'm saying? If this is going to be healthy and cultivate not only us but now our family, and
Right.
then eventually the community, we got to be in here with it. And so when I did learn about the emotional infidelity, what that really meant in some of the friendships and communications I was having at the time, had to cut that thing off because it wasn't helpful. So yes, and there's a lot of humility. You have to be willing to listen to your partner and accept things and implement things for yourself. People don't understand. Oh, no, I shouldn't say that. It's not spoken of enough how relationships strengthen the individual. Because not only is it about being disciplined and things like that, but your communication skills, being able to talk things out, or not even just talk, like they have books around languages and stuff. So you might be a big talker. You might be the person you got to take them down to the dock of the bay. You know what I'm saying? Just sit there and watch the water and, be in some quiet spaces together. And it's amazing how things just transmit and transfer sometimes. Like that opportunity you take to be out in nature or to do something different with your partner, then they start opening up and talking to you and telling you how they feel and things of that, because you don't get it all on the wedding day. It's not like, oh, now you're married, you got the license, right, and everything is good. You got the whole book of how this thing is going to work. Right. It's not like that. And that goes to what someone was saying earlier about the magic of the ceremony and how magical it can be. Like for some people, that's like the fantasy of their whole life is getting to that point where they're going to find their prince or princess charming and, wander into nirvana or something. It's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. But then that something else happened. You know what I'm saying?
What else happened, boo?
I don't know. They don't take the mud off their shoes before they come in the house, or they throw their drawers on the floor, put them in the hamper. Something. You see it enough, you just get sick of it. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna wash that dish. And then those things add up, and then
I think ultimately the conversation to me is around commitment. Has to do with, one, as a person, Do they have the bandwidth to stretch?
Mm.
Do they have the bandwidth to not control, to not have a puppet as a partner?
Right.
I also want to say, when you were speaking of like those times where emotional infidelity, where you were teetering on that,
Mm-hmm.
my conversation for him wasn't to cut the relationship off completely. It was like, do you feel like this is enriching to this space? Because if you feel like this person is a distraction, not only are they a distraction, but there's an attraction there on your side, mm-hmm. or in the other person's side. So let me know how this is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
How far is it going to go before something, because something's already happening here. There's a relationship that's developing, mm-hmm. emotionally, mentally, maybe even spiritually. And so how are you going to be able to navigate that? Because I was like, we're not open. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because my conversation with him in the beginning, like when we had some conversations around commitment, remember the time we went to like our favorite vegan Chinese restaurant, and we had been dating like 5 months, and he was like, well, what do you think about me going down to South America and hanging out with such and such? And I said, what? And my stomach hurt, right? And I said, okay, as long as you know that while you're gone, I'm going to have some just big, brawny, mandingo, like just servicing me. He was like, Ananda, I feel nauseous. I said, exactly. Right. Because for me, it wasn't so much about the physical. For me, it was like, yes, that was a part of it, but it was about, I'm with you all this time, and then you get to get a vacation and go be with someone who isn't with you in the trenches, mm-hmm. of this life, mm-hmm. that we're creating. You understand what I'm saying? And so, like, that's, for me, that was not comfortable for me. And I feel like it's important for people to guard their mental, emotional, spiritual well-being for themselves.
Yeah, you gotta have some. It's good to have boundaries and know what they are, and not assume that your partner knows what they are. Like, just because you have been living a certain way and you're moving through your journey, and have had all kind of experiences and awakenings because of that. Mm-hmm. You get to share that stuff with the partner, so then they can understand more and then be deeper in the commitment. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of things you exposed me to, I didn't know. Mm-hmm. Like my previous people in relationships, we didn't discuss any of that stuff. So,
but you weren't in a place where you wanted to discuss any of that either.
No. I mean, yeah, but maybe. But again, if you're confronted with something, then at least you get the opportunity to accept it or reject it. I had never really had a lot of these conversations, so it was tough because I was stuck in my ways in some aspects. But then at the end, it was liberating because it made me more aware. Like, I wasn't the kind of person who might be aware of all of the different attractions and things that go on. I'm just kind of like moving around like, but you helped me to tune in and be like, okay, what is really going on here? And, how do I redirect it, or does it need to even be entertained at all?
But for me, I learned a lot of that from, one, being in relationships primarily before I met you with women. Mm-hmm. So that's one. Women process a lot. 2, by going to counseling, by being in therapy. Mm-hmm. So I learned by going to therapy that the stuff that I was pulling in my relationships were not okay. That's how I learned. I learned that I was being dishonest, mm-hmm. not only with my partner, but with myself. And so back to commitment, I think that it's up to the person to really decide, do I really want a life partner?
Man, that's a deep question to ask yourself too.
Do I really want someone that I get to be responsible to?
Yeah.
In a sense.
And for. It's both of those things.
Do I want somebody? Because a lot of times people say they want to get in relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, but I just need my space. Well, I'm just like, well, if you need all that space, then why did you get into the relationship? You can have
join NASA.
You can have a relationship that is, because I think a lot of times what people want is companionship.
Right. Yes.
Or they want a friendship
yes.
that comprises intimacy and sex.
All the
goodies without the responsibility, without that mirror being reflected to them
mm-hmm.
that will point out their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I had this one partner one time, anytime we would get into it, she would be like, well, I guess I just need to be by myself. You're not the only person that told me this. No, if I'm the only person that has shared this with you, don't laugh. It's not funny.
I'm sorry, but I'm not. I'm laughing because that's so common, right? I mean,
right?
We get all these reflections of our areas that we need work, and for whatever reason, we're not able to see them. It's like my glasses just fell off, right? It's like it's right there in front of you, but you can't see it because but it's not being willing to accept it. It's the ego again, like not wanting to accept that I need to do some things. But I cut you off. You was talking about me last.
No, that was cool. No, I think that, and I would into some of my things in that relationship, which was extremely toxic, because we had our own pain points, but we were not in dealing with them ourselves. First of all, you cannot deal with your problems by yourself. I don't care who they are.
Say it again. Say it again. You can't do these things.
You can't do it on your own.
None of this.
None of it.
Your own individual journey. It's not individual. We have people around us. We all need help with various things in life. So please, your personal stuff that you're dealing with as an individual, if you are in a relationship, that kind of counseling that's needed, helpful. Always seek wise counsel.
So
that's a good point too. Don't talk to anybody about your stuff. But this is a good question here that we have.
Why do some couples stay together for years and when they get married, then their relationship is over?
Theories on that.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, so one thing is marriage is a concept. It's a social construct, right? So because of our culture, and I mean culture meaning how we have been acculturated here in America, expectations that come with the marriage that may not have anything to do with the reality that people are actually living. So we make fun of little things like this here in our house. Like you get married and then the man takes out the trash, the woman cooks all the food and makes sure the house is tidy. And then if you have children, the more modern way is some kind of way of splitting it, but it always ends up being more on the woman's plate to deal with the kids. So the woman ends up being 75% of the actual labor in the household, if you really want to talk about it. That's what people think of as traditional marriage. Now, you may not be promoting that as an individual, like I don't believe in that, but because it is such a common thing in our culture and society, it's like almost like the group consciousness pushes you into that direction. So you may have been fancy free in your 10 or 15 years shacking up or dating or being, boyfriend, girlfriend, couple.
With children.
And have kids too, all of that. Because you're not living under any kind of construct. You're just being you and you making it up as you go along. But then when those vows come in, that imprint from your parents or from the movies you watched or the church you're in or the spiritual group that you're part of, that imprint comes down. And then now you got to wear this uncomfortable outfit that you didn't really sign on to put that on. Maybe you wanted to commit in that way for the ceremony and for the community to witness and be a part of it, right? That doesn't mean you have to abandon all the things you were doing before that actually worked.
Right.
Like what really is the difference if in this instance, Ananda, if you were with someone for 15 years, let's say you and I, we were together for 10 years, 11 years, and then we decided to get married. Like, what, would that?
You want to know what my thought is?
Yeah, please.
in the tradition, in my limited understanding, because you can't know it all, people's ancestors don't get along.
Oh, fundamental piece.
And there are times in which where Ifami comes in handy in all life, but people get divination before they get married to see what offerings need to be made, if any, to appease their ancestors, to make sure their ancestors don't quarrel, to make sure their ancestors aren't fighting. Because once you get married, because when you say, okay, we are coming together, that's not just us.
No.
It's all the lineages coming together.
Family lines.
You understand what I'm saying?
That's why they used to have the arranged marriages. Some people just still do that, actually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so if the ancestors aren't for it, if people's own spirits aren't, they're just not in it, because it's a contract. It's a binding contract, not only legally on earth, but in heaven. It's binding.
Yes.
When you stand before anyone with any type of spiritual authority, even if people are atheists and they make a commitment, it's binding in the ethers.
Yeah, you make any kind of vow.
Any type of vow or promise.
Yes.
It's binding.
People do it all the time. Professionally, you take oaths if you're, if you're an attorney or medical profession. They take that stuff very seriously.
Yeah.
They have whole boards that govern and make sure you're doing it by those oaths. So it's very similar. I think that's why it's easy to get into the marriage, but it's hard to get out of it because make that vow. It's not so easy.
It's not cut and dry. But that's my theory. I think that people's ancestors like, oh, they freaking okay, they having kids. All right. Even though we have kids, that's a lifelong kid, but it's different once you're marrying. Once you say yes, you're marrying a whole tribe's 7 generations forward, across, and even into the future. And so that's a big deal.
Yeah, and I think that's also why it is so important to get wise counsel. And it's with all of this we've lost through the Ma'afa and just the falling away from our indigenous nature, the science of mating, the science of connecting with the person who's going to be a true partner has been lost. So if you have been in a relationship and it didn't work out, don't beat yourself up. It's not the end of the world. It may have been your fault. It may have been their fault. It's probably both people had something to do with it. But own that and then do the work so you can be better and more whole for the next opportunity. If you're blessed to have that, because that's what I felt like when I met Ananda. Was like, man, God had really just showed off and just did something I wasn't expecting, because I had already messed up. I married and didn't work out well, and I felt really broken by that. And so I wasn't really looking to get in any kind of relationship, because I was like, my opportunity was past. I didn't do the right thing, or whatever the things were going on. So when she came along, and it was just that connection was so powerful. I didn't want to mess up. So when she did teach me or expose me to myself, that's really what it was, a mirror. She was exposing me to me. And as she did that, and I realized that this is too valuable to lose, and I think a lot of men, sometimes we want to touch on this a little bit too, about, men and relationships and stuff. And there's so many stereotypes about men, or some people, it's so much stuff about Black men here and that goes on in the media and stuff. It's kind of crazy. But I just want to say this thing. Commitment is tough because I think a lot of our training is to do for self, to secure whatever you're trying to secure the bag, and being in a partner relationship was at one point it was illegal. You couldn't do it, right? I mean, talking about back into the enslavement period. Then it became later on in later years a hindrance to getting access to government benefits and things like that. So there's so many tricks that really kind of conned us, I think, out of the value of our relationships with our women. So now, since people are waking up and some people are woke, this is the time to reconnect and realize that we're not any stronger separated. We have to be together to have our true strength. And here's another piece that may be a little controversial for some of you. We can't have the women in the back, guys. The women get to be right up here with us, if not in front, because for too long, this kind of patriarchal thing of, yes, people come out of the church tradition, stuff like that. The man is what do you call it? The head of the household, I don't want to get into no big debate about theology and all that kind of stuff. But we have to work together. It's a teamwork. It's a cooperation. It's no, as my dad would always say, there's no big I's and little U's. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to figure this thing out together. And if you don't, then you're gonna be by yourself, because this 21st century woman is not messing around with no BS. And I think we have to recognize the power of our women and embrace it. How do you balance your marriage and other relationship boundaries, like with friends, and with parents and people who are not married? One thing I think we said earlier is keeping your stuff tight. Like, we have family members and all that kind of stuff, but when Ananda and I have an issue, we're not going out and blasting out everybody. We're working on it internally here with each other,
or go to
counseling someone who is not a family member or a friend, a professional person, or a babalawo or someone like that, to do some readings and help us get some guidance.
Yeah, that was something. Like, I'm having like this inner conflict right now, because I think that we have a very different relationship. In terms of Zakiah, there's no man cave. He doesn't go out like to the bars and stuff like this. It's we're really close knit.
Yeah, and I burnt out on all that stuff when I was young. I mean, like a lot of that stuff.
My point in saying that is that there isn't a lot of extra chattering that's coming into our space.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, we did it like that pretty much on purpose.
Right.
I know for me, I found that when I was in other relationships and I talked to other people about my relationships, especially when it wasn't going well, I found that the same people that I was talking to about my relationship were not rooting for my relationship anyway.
Because they didn't have good relationships.
Right, or they didn't have a relationship, or they just didn't want to hear about it, or they didn't like my partner, or whatever the case may be. And so I do have a couple of really, but I'm also still very discerning about what I share with individuals about our relationship. And in my estimation, and when we've had conversations, if people have not successfully, not saying that people get divorced and they remarry and they learn, a lot of times what I've seen, especially in our community, is that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
People get divorced, they remarry, they divorce again, or they suppress who they really are in order to not feel like a failure in the arena of marriage or relationships or, long-term commitments. And it's really, this relationship thing is really about the individual.
Right.
It's really about the individual's journey. And so for me, I learned if it's something sacred to me, then it's between me and my partner.
Sacred is secret, that's a part of that.
And so if a person has not had a relationship where they can say, yes, I've been married, I have children, I messed up. These are the ways in which I messed up. These are the ways I was inauthentic. These are the ways in which I have healed in order to show up and be present and accounted for in my relationship and in community. The relationship is just another aspect of community. It's the foundation of community, marriage or long-term relationships. And so I was going to say, so if those if a person's not able to do that for me, if I don't see that, then I'm not going to go to them and ask them for assistance.
Right.
Or how to be better in my relationship.
Right.
I'm not going to do that.
No, it's not. It's like you don't ask someone who's riding the bus to, tell you how to fix your car, or, or to, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have
it could be a mechanic riding a bus.
A bad example, but you know what I'm saying. You don't ask an airline pilot to come and fix your plumbing or whatever. I got my analogies up there great, but I feel my dad in here real strong, Bishop Tate, and that's one of the things he would say is like when he was counseling young couples, he'd be like, don't go telling your business to people who haven't succeeded at what you're doing. And then he would tell the old folks, don't share all your pains and hurts and traumas from your bad relationships and your marriage that you're not happy in with these young folks. So don't poison them with your stuff. And then also for the young people, don't go out there and get advice from people who really don't know. And it could be well-meaning, right? But I also look at it like this, Ananda.
Yes, Mama.
In the society that we're in, the times that we're in, having a strong relationship, a strong couple relationship, being married is a revolutionary act. And it's you can see the statistics. It's not succeeding, right? So there aren't a lot of people you can go and talk to. Just a regular everyday person, because people are not really good at this. And so it takes a different perspective. Like you really that to me is part of the treasuring of it too, along with loving you dearly and knowing that you are the greatest gift that I have outside of my own personal just breath of life. Right.
Baba.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But also realizing that we are participating in something that is for the greater good of us and our community, and we got to do whatever we can to defend that. So I saw a comedian. He was talking about the Cardi B and what's the guy's name, Offset, getting divorced, and he said every Black man upon getting married should get two mentors, an older brother who was married and it didn't work out, and hopefully, and add your piece to it, and they learn something from it, right? You want the old bitter person,
right?
And then an older brother who is married and they stayed married, to get that guidance about how to negotiate, navigate in the process of loving yourself, loving each other, and everything.
It's like shadowing somebody, like when people, they shadow folks. The training,
because
right?
The other piece is even our social structure doesn't support relationships. And, we go into this, like, it takes time to talk things through, like you said, process. And you might have something that came up, but then you got to go to work the next day. And you got to deal with all the stress from your job and the things you're trying to process from the people you're working with at the job. And you may even have an office husband or office wife, and
I remember when Z had got this job he had in DC at the Housing Authority. Shout out Housing Authority, Washington DC. When he worked there, he came home one day. He hadn't even worked there 2 months, and they was talking about he was like, yes, they saying such and such as my office wife. I said, I know you lying. You only got what?
One wife.
I was not even about to even play.
She came down to the office. She made sure people know who she is.
Because I've been around enough, I've worked enough to see the same people that people have those relationships with on their job is the same person they screwing on their lunch break.
Yeah. No, again, I mean, those boundaries, you have to really be vigilant.
Because most people are at work longer with their work community than they're at home with their partner.
Right. And when I say vigilant, I don't mean like you're scared or paranoid. That's not what I'm thinking, that you don't trust your partner. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that because of what I just said earlier about this being a revolutionary act in the society that we live in, not supportive of relationships, there's so many potholes and potential pitfalls and traps that are out there. And you just can't be la 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 just like that, because that's just not. And you could love your partner dearly, but it's just stuff out there. Like, I never heard no work husband or work wife. I don't know how long this has been going on, but this is thing,
It's a
right?
newer phenomenon.
Right.
My parents, when our parents were
Yeah,
working.
who was talking like that? Like, what makes you? When I saw how it was operating, that person is going to make sure maybe they bring you some breakfast or something, or things like that happen, right? They're looking out for you, as in an emotional way.
Yeah.
In the workplace,
And you get enough emotional meals, somebody gonna want some emotional booty.
I mean, yeah, or shoulder to lean on. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So be careful out there. Be careful out there. Be careful.
What about children? How do you all work together when it comes to children? We don't. We just ignore their asses. So excuse me. We don't.
How do we work together to raise them?
Prayer.
Yeah, we pray together. Definitely.
Meditation.
Yes.
We have in our space, because we are artists. We are almost like your typical artist, except for we're not. What's that thing they say? We're not starving artists, and so we're kind of non-traditional in some of those ways. I'm home with the children. I work from home. Have a business from home. Also homeschool. And that's interesting in COVID. I was going to say, so they're not in bed by 7:30, and so we have to carve out time. Even there are times that you're like, hey, I'm done. I love you. Let's spend some time. Because I'll go into autopilot, because you just be working. And because I work at home, there's no place where I can go and close the door and there's a cutoff type of thing. You know what I'm saying?
As far as raising the children, we have a goal, right, of how we want our children to develop. It's not necessarily about college degrees and all those things. Whatever they choose to do along those lines it's fine.
Yeah.
We're just talking about them being good quality people with good character and treat themselves and each other with respect,
right,
and love. And at their age right now, they're less than 10 years old. We really focus a lot on creating a space where they feel free to have fun, to be creative, to express themselves, and learning about how to guide them with gentle instruction and encouragement versus punishment and just like directives. We always felt like this when younger, because I was exposed to a lot of Europeans through my education early on, and they raised their children much differently than what I saw in my community. And I said, oh, they're raising people to lead the world. And whether we agree with how they lead the world now is not the point, but they're raising leaders by conversing with their children and allowing them to be in the decision-making process and things of that nature. And, where I saw more of children being seen but not heard, and get away from the adult table and things of that nature, isolating children and punishing them for being emotional and things like that. And so if you're going to create leaders, if you're going to transform society, you have to empower the children, or not, they're already powerful. You have to make space for the children to be themselves and to collaborate in the process. So we, talking to our children, what do you want to do? What are you thinking about this? Why are you feeling this way? Processing things. We do a lot of that, and we're learning. We're not no experts, saying we're learning, and have to unlearn some things that we may have picked up from where we were, the way we were raised. We want to do things a little bit differently.
I think there is I just want to acknowledge this. I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, a Coma Day initiative. We're going to look that up. Thank you for the information. I want to find out more about that.
Yeah. So one of the things with our children is that they, like what Zakai said, they're right now we don't have them around because we're doing this, hosting this show, and normally our children are always with us.
Mm-hmm. Always.
They're always with us. And when we can find the time, or when we make time for one another, then we are able to talk or spend some adult time, quality time. You know what I mean? But in terms of our children, we spent however many years, 30 some odd years before they got here, so they don't get to be carted off.
No.
They don't get to be hidden. They do get to, sometimes they need a break from us, and we're looking for ways to have that happen.
Developing a community that can support that.
Right, because
we're not going to pretend like we have that right now.
No, we don't.
We're developing that. Definitely.
Yeah, because for us, it's like we want people who have the same values, mm-hmm. similar values, ethics, culturally, that watch our children.
Right. Right.
Our children don't eat nothing, and we don't even. Our son is vehemently against McDonald's, and we have never gone off about McDonald's. They don't eat it, but he's like, he just thinks it's just. I mean, he goes off.
Yeah, if you hear him talk about that, wow.
So I think the commitment is all about what people are wanting to envision for themselves. I knew before I met my husband, it was placed in my heart that these were the qualities that I wanted in a mate. I had not had those qualities before. And so it was brought to me, and I prayed on it, and I wrote them down, and I met him 9 months later. Was it manifestation? Somebody could call it that. I'll say, okay, it was a manifestation list. But ultimately, what I was doing was calling who my person was to me. And I was saying to my ancestors that I am ready for my divine match and my divine mate, which I don't take lightly, which is absolutely a blessing. And I wasn't just looking for someone who was going to take care of me or anything like that. That's not my thing like that. You understand what I'm saying? So for me, the commitment started with my commitment to myself, my commitment to grow, my commitment to be humble. When I say humble, I'm saying teachable, because there's plenty of times in our relationship where he has taught me. He's taught me the value of being a plus size woman, right? In the world where he loves me, reps me, all these ways. And it was so amazing because 3 months before I met him, I remember meditating, and there was this guy that I did like, but he didn't know that I liked him or whatever. And my ancestors came and told me that it's not that guy. Who we bring to you is going to love you at this weight. They're going to love you at this weight, but because they'll be able to see exactly who you are. Mm-hmm. And to have somebody that the more I've become committed to myself and my spiritual walk and my mental health and you understand what I'm saying? And my own health and well-being, it was like the universe matched me with someone who would add to that and also hold space for me in the places that I had not been able to shine a flashlight on yet. Mm-hmm. And it's still a process.
Yeah. And coming together with another person is, to me, a divine appointment. Mm-hmm. This is an African spiritual conversation. I want to expand a little bit and say, we're also Krishna conscious, and to me, that is an African spiritual tradition too. It comes out of India, which is, as far as I'm concerned, a part of Africa. We can go into the history and geography and all that kind of stuff another point. But with Krishna, there's Radha. That combination of the male and female is throughout all of the indigenous traditions. So it's a divine appointment to be coupled and to have a partner. And if we look at it that way, I think we would do more of what it takes to keep our unions intact. Because yes, those things do come up, whether it's the emotional infidelity, whether it's financial issues and pressures people feel, and they maybe don't feel like they have enough to stick with it because it's just so much on them, and not finding ways to communicate and share those burdens. Sometimes things are in your mind, your partner not even thinking about that. Like, some people are like, well, I got to get her that purse, or I got to do this. And she wants you just to be there on Friday evening and sit next to her on the couch and watch something on TV, you know. But in your mind, because you've seen all this stuff, you know, in the media and whatever, you got to go out and you know the thing now because there's all the social media, Instagram, you know, the birthday things. People got big wads of cash and the bed has got flowers everywhere and just you know all every shoe that ever came out that year, and people looking there like. This guy worked next to me at the post office. Like, how did he do? How did he do all that?
Right.
And it's like we can't. That's not the standard we need to be trying to focus on. You know, really the standard to me. I love it when my wife and I and the children go out and walk together. Like we live in the community here with lots of families, but I don't never see no other family but ours. All of us walking together.
Right.
We're holding hands. We got the dog, and that's just beautiful. I mean, that to me is better than any kind of shoes or whatever else stuff you can buy. Going to the park, you know, like I said, we go everywhere together. You know, just having fun and enjoying life. You know, and getting out of the competitive space of all the things we have to get and do, and just getting into being and being together.
Having these experiences, having priceless experiences,
right.
and that are based in liking a person. Most people, a lot of people are looking at going to the fancy this and getting that, when all of those things are absolute distractions, because the person don't really even like, let's not say themselves, and then it carries over to not really, like, you know what, now I think about it, you take away all this razzle dazzle, I don't really
even know you.
I don't even know you. I don't even, you know what I'm saying?
Like, I got to give another Bishop Tate quote before we close out here. He would always say, start out like you can hold out. Because he was talking about people who will wine and dine the woman in this case, because it's old school, right? The man taking a woman out on a date, and you take her to the fanciest restaurant, and you just showing her just a grand time, like just rolling it out. And then when you get together, you really on the peanut butter budget. And it's like, he was like, you know, start like you can hold out. So all those things, like, don't create a bigger burden for yourself than just being available to love yourself and then extend your love to others. And then you'll attract the right people just from that. That's the way, that's been my experience. I didn't have a list like Ananda had. I just was in a space where I was open.
And well, let me just,
to some extent,
clarify. Right.
I was open to some extent. Saying I love you was that hard? No. I know. Was it hard for you, man?
I think we told each other we loved within the first week.
Yeah.
Because we felt it when we met. So it wasn't, you know, the hardest thing for me to say to him is I need him to help me. The hardest thing.
Y'all strong black woman.
You know, it's not that. My thing is, honestly, is that he carries so much that if I can alleviate anything from him, then he won't complain. He'll just keep going until he passes out. Like, literally. We just launched our second business today. He was up for like 2 days, almost 2 days straight, you know, and children, we love them. They're relentless. They don't give a daggone if you ain't slept, if you ain't ate, nothing. They just like, give me. So saying, you know, some things are, and when I say I need him, it's usually if I have something I'm sorting out, you know, because I came from a space of being so needy and so heavily dependent on my partners and what they thought and this, that, and the other. So a lot of times I do my best to work things out. What keeps you balanced in your relationship?
Prayer, meditation. What else, Ben?
Sitting with the shrines, prayer, meditation, long showers for me. That helps me.
Making love.
I'm about to say
a great balancer.
I'm about to say some really good loving.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just be. Some days go by.
It's a different way of communicating, right?
Right.
You're not coming. Your ego hopefully is not present. You're being surrendering to one another, and that is a barrier breaker in and of itself. So I think a lot of relationships, when that physical intimate component is missing, then yeah, you don't really have very much to operate from. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, usually after that, for most people, after that part has dried up or whatever.
No pun intended.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That the relationship is not going to be sustained much longer.
Right.
That's because it is
like
another kind
that's
of
like the rhythm of the relationship, the intimacy.
Yeah. Yeah. So what keeps us balanced is what he said, and also really good. We're foodies, so we like really good food, healthy food, but good.
But we're eating together and we're talking to each other and we're just being close. That's a good thing to balance too. Is like not spending a lot of time apart.
How do you see yourself? These are some really good questions.
Yeah.
Do you ever talk or envision that? All I see is him. So I see us now. I saw us 10 years ago, and I see us, inshallah, 40 years from now,
I think another secret that that Sri shared was about having a focus outside of your relationship, something you're working on together as a team. So we have businesses. So we don't necessarily talk about ourselves growing old. We talk about our businesses,
right? The longevity of that,
what we see
our children
institutions becoming, and what we want to do with our children, how we want to create legacy for them and things we can pass on to them. So by envisioning that, we know we're going to be there together doing it. So whatever that looks like for us, it'll be us together doing stuff and creating stuff and being a presence in the world.
And that's a really good point. People can't, when you get in relationships, you can't just look at your partner and be like, this is my everything. You know what I mean? You can feel that way, but you can't be like, don't go do this. I need you. You have to have interests together. Makes it balanced. It can't just be all hot passion and love making, or you know what I'm saying? We're just gonna conquer the world together. Like people do that.
Sure.
They have that conversation. And it's like for us, it's like what feels enriching for everyone. For us, for our children, for our community, for our extended family. Like how is our family in contribution to our community at large?
Right.
And exactly. Those are the things that we definitely have commonplace in. Yeah.
Does it make you laugh to see some reflections of yourself? I don't know if I'm laughing or...
I mean, most of the time I'm crying in my reflection because...
It's pretty wild.
It's wild.
Not only ourselves, but some of our other ancestors too. Like
yes,
from the family line.
Yeah,
it's pretty wild.
And I cry because we have an 8-year-old, and he is a lot like me.
And me too. He has the intent.
Yeah, he's like a lot like both of us. Like cerebrally a lot like my husband, and emotionally a lot like me. And that can be hard to contend with yourself. And I see myself in our daughters, and I see parts of him in our other children, and it's like, whoa, like that's mind blowing. Because then you like, yo, is your destiny really your destiny, or some of our destiny, or some of our own inside epigenetics and DNA? It's all like mixed up in there, like in this stew. Right.
That's another beautiful perspective from which to maybe stay in your relationship. Like, don't you want to see how this movie plays out?
Right.
Like, why you want to leave in the middle of the thing? The drama ain't even over yet. You know what I'm saying? Let's see if we can make a turn, and see what kind of support we can get. We can finish this out. It's going to be amazing. That's how I look at it. Like, wow, Stephen. Sometimes I have thought about, maybe being in a spiritual space a long time from now, in a spiritual body, just looking and seeing the generations that have come from what we started here. I think that's just an awesome thing to just even contemplate.
Yeah, it is. That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
Don't think about it too much.
No.
So, yeah, this has been good. This is our first, inaugural Friday with African Spiritual Conversations.
Lots of fun. We look forward to exploring different topics. So if you view this and you have some ideas or questions,
when you view this,
if you have ideas or questions or things that you would like for us to explore, please write and let us know. And look forward to seeing you in the same place next week.
Friday. Yeah. Thank you all so much. One breath, one vibe, one tribe. Peace.
Be blessed.